The Climate and Nature Bill now being considered by the UK Parliament is not just a threat to British freedom, or what little of it remains. It's also a warning to America and beyond of where the global green agenda is heading. Britain has all the appearance and trappings of a democracy, but the views and wishes of British citizens are routinely ignored. The Greens in Britain struggle to get 4 MPs elected, but they enjoy almost total control of Britain's publicly funded establishment, the mainstream media, and public policy. No matter how much the British public hate the green agenda, they'll have it shoved down their throats regardless. Likewise, the British are fast learning that a democratic constitution is no protection against a terrifying expansion of state control over their lives, the end of free speech, and the death of private property rights. With the Climate and Nature Bill, which may soon become law, Britain is about to take a further step towards total state control and the impoverishment of its citizens. It's estimated that around 10 people a day are being arrested in Britain for writing something on social media which is deemed offensive or inappropriate. Many are facing lengthy jail sentences for the crime of saying the wrong thing. The UK government's new Employment Rights Bill threatens to have expelled and removed from pubs any customer who is overheard discussing what the government deems to be a controversial topic. Climate skepticism has been legally banned from British TV and radio. But now we have the Climate and Nature Bill. This calls for the establishment of an expert independent body of climate change zealots, who would in turn appoint a Climate and Nature Assembly to legally hold the government to account. This assembly would be made up, somehow, of a representative sample of the United Kingdom population, whatever that means, as determined, of course, by the independent climate experts. This is not just more green bureaucracy, in which Western civilization is already drowning. It's an unelected green body which will have legal powers over the UK government. What would the bill force on the British public? Policies consistent with limiting the global mean temperature increase to 1.5 degrees Celsius. To achieve this empty, nonsensical goal, the bill makes legally binding the end of the exploration, extraction, export and import of fossil fuels as rapidly as possible. Already rocked by absurd and self-destructive net zero policies, a ban on fossil fuels would be a catastrophe for Britain, as we struggle to keep the lights on and heat our homes, with fuel bills already among the highest in the world. This provision alone would lead to the collapse of what's left of British industry, and indeed much of the British economy as a whole. But just as bad, indeed worse, the bill justifies an extension of state power unprecedented in British history. Fighting climate change is such a dangerous legal commitment precisely because it's so meaningless and all-encompassing, for it requires the intrusion of the state into every aspect of our lives. The UK government already tells its citizens what kind of buildings they can live in, what kind of appliances they can buy, what kind of cars they can drive, where they can drive. Professions and industries are forced by law to sign up to nebulous and draconian climate goals. In the name of fighting climate change, the British state determines what is taught to children in schools, what will be shown on our TVs, and soon, it seems, what will be discussed in pubs. But this bill goes further. In the name of fighting climate change, it binds the British government to assess, monitor, and regulate the production and consumption of goods and services and all related trade, transport, and financing. That's everything. What you consume and how much you consume, what you produce and how you produce it, what service you provide or use, where you go and where you get your money. This is all now, thanks to this bill, the business of the state. To regulate, inspect, monitor, limit, tax or ban, all in the name of preserving Mother Nature. The bill effectively justifies the suspension of individual privacy, consumer freedom, free enterprise, private property rights, and pretty much every other freedom hitherto taken for granted in the UK. Some commentators have long been warning that the climate alarm is nothing but a smokescreen for a massive expansion of state control, nationally and globally, an invented scare used to justify the creation of an Orwellian state. The Climate and Nature Bill is a watershed for Britain. It must be stopped.